The strangest thing about almost passing out in urgent care wasn't the IV in my arm, or the nurse asking me twice what year it was. It was watching Rachel Adams, my 25-year-old neighbor from 4B, pause over a clipboard like one little blank could expose something dangerous. We had spent months pretending the small things between us were ordinary. She left chicken soup outside my door when I worked 3 late nights in a row. I scraped ice off her windshield before dawn without admitting it was me. She texted me when the elevator broke because she knew my knee still hated stairs after an old hiking injury. I replaced the burned-out hallway bulb near her apartment because she once mentioned she hated coming home to a dark landing. None of that was dating. None of it was even friendship, at least not the kind either of us had named. Then the nurse asked Rachel to complete the line marked "Relationship to Patient," and I saw her hand stop. Before I tell you what she wrote, like the video, subscribe, and tell me this. When does caring about someone stop being just being nice and become something you can no longer pretend not to feel? The nurse walked away before Rachel finished the form. I was folded into a molded plastic chair, my coat behind my head, trying not to admit the room moved whenever I blinked. Rachel stood beside me in a dark green sweater, snow melting on her shoulders, filling in my address and birth date because my handwriting had become abstract art. Then she reached the final line, "Relationship to Patient." She glanced at me. "Don't pass out again. I'm resting. You were resting vertically in the hallway 20 minutes ago. I prefer the floor, better lumbar support. You hit a fire extinguisher cabinet. That part was less therapeutic." Her mouth twitched. She lowered the pen. I watched her write one word. Family. For a second, I blamed the fever. I knew what neighbor looked like. I was a structural engineer. Block letters were not beyond me. The nurse returned, took the clipboard, and walked away. Rachel studied the vending machine. "Rachel." "No, I haven't asked anything. You made your question face. I have a question face. You absolutely do. What did you write? You saw it. I want to hear you say it. You're dehydrated. That's not a relationship category." She finally looked at me. Humor was there, but behind it sat something careful. "Can we get you through tonight before you interrogate me?" I wanted to tell her the word had landed in a place I kept locked. Instead, the room tilted. Rachel caught my forearm before I could slide sideways. "Michael, I'm fine. You're listening while sitting. That's advanced." A nurse noticed. 5 minutes later, I was in an exam room with a blood pressure cuff squeezing my arm, and Rachel holding my phone, wallet, keys, and whatever remained of my dignity. The doctor said I had a severe respiratory infection, significant dehydration, and a fever high enough that he did not want me driving or going home alone. He ordered IV fluids, fever medication, and a chest X-ray because I had been coughing for days. When he left, Rachel crossed her arms. "How long?" "Couple days." Her stare did not change. 4. Michael. 5, if you define sick aggressively. I define hearing you cough through a wall at 2 in the morning aggressively. You heard that? I live 12 feet away. There's a hallway. A hallway is not soundproofing. I had lived in 4A for almost 3 years. Rachel had moved into 4B 11 months earlier. We became acquainted after one of her grocery bags split in the elevator and oranges rolled between our shoes. After that, familiarity grew by inches. I knew she left early Tuesdays for the pediatric therapy clinic where she worked. She knew I had dawn site inspections twice a month. I knew she called her father every Sunday. She knew I hated cinnamon in coffee. We were not intimate. We were observant. I had spent months insisting there was a difference. The IV cooled my arm. Rachel pulled the visitor chair closer. "You can go home. I said. No, you work tomorrow. I switched my first appointment. That made me sit straighter. You didn't have to. I know. I looked away. I had always been bad at receiving care. I could say thank you. I could repay a favor. Receiving was different. Receiving meant staying still while somebody spent energy on you, accepting a debt with no invoice. Years earlier, I had learned how dangerous that could feel. Rachel studied me. Nobody's life is ruined because I moved one appointment. I didn't say it was. You were about to build a spreadsheet proving it. I don't build spreadsheets for emotional problems. Maybe that's the problem. Despite the fever, I laughed. The X-ray showed no pneumonia. The doctor was relieved, but my blood pressure still dropped when I stood. He repeated the instructions. Fluids, rest, medication, and someone nearby until the fever came down. I live alone, I said. The doctor looked at Rachel. Rachel looked at him. I looked at both of them. No. Rachel smiled like a woman who had just acquired legal authority. On the drive home, Denver was quiet beneath fresh snow. Rachel drove my car because she had come to urgent care with me in a rideshare and refused to leave the vehicle there overnight. At a red light, I said, "Family." You waited 37 minutes. I was distracted by medical oppression. You're welcome. Why did you write it? Her hands tightened on the wheel. The form wanted the closest category. Neighbor was an option. You read it upside down while delirious? I'm talented. I've noticed. The words were light. Her voice was not. Why family? She drove another block before answering. Because friend felt dishonest. That clarified nothing. What does that mean? It means you're sick. And I'm not having this conversation while your temperature is over 100. My temperature has no jurisdiction over vocabulary. You know what? I regret giving a feverish engineer a mystery. You know I hate unsolved problems. I know. The softness of that answer stopped me. At my apartment, Rachel did not simply drop me off. She built a system. Water on the nightstand. Another bottle by the couch. Medication beside a handwritten schedule. Charger within reach. Trash can moved closer. Then she opened my refrigerator. Do you hate vegetables personally? There's mustard. Mustard is not produce. It comes from a seed. You have half a lime and 3 beers. The lime is fresh. The lime is fossilizing. She changed my sheets because I could barely stand straight. I sat on the couch listening to someone move around my bedroom, and the sound pulled me 6 years backward. My mother had ovarian cancer. During her last year, my girlfriend, Erin, became part partner, part caregiver. She drove me to the hospital, brought groceries, sat with Mom when I needed sleep. After Mom died, Erin stayed 5 more months. Then one night, exhausted and crying, she said, "I love you, Michael, but I can't keep being needed this much." She was not cruel. She was burned out. That made it worse. After she left, I got very good at not needing anyone. I paid bills early, kept spare batteries, carried jumper cables, answered other people's calls. I almost never made one. Rachel came out with the old sheets. You disappeared somewhere. I'm right here. No, you weren't. She did not ask where I had gone. I'm going home for a few hours, she said. Text me if you get worse. You do not need to come back. I know. There's that sentence again. Get used to it. At the door, I said, Rachel. She turned. Thank you. Some of the teasing left her face. Drink the water, Michael. Then she went home. At 7 the next morning, a grocery bag appeared outside my door. Bananas, crackers, broth, oatmeal, oranges, electrolyte packets, and a new thermometer, because mine apparently had the accuracy of a mood ring. A sticky note sat on top. Eat something before you decide your job is more important than being conscious. Underneath, smaller. And mustard still doesn't count. For 3 days, Rachel took care of me through actions too specific to dismiss as generic kindness. She texted at medication times. She brought soup after work and sat across the room while I ate so I would not feel watched. She took out my trash when walking to the chute made me dizzy. She cleaned an old humidifier before bringing it over. When I slept through a check-in, she knocked until I answered. When I complained that I was not a child, she said, "Good. Then you're old enough to understand people can care without being asked." There were smaller things, too. The kind no one would call romantic if they were trying very hard not to. She learned I could tolerate oatmeal only with too much brown sugar and stopped commenting on it. She put a folded dish towel beneath the humidifier because she knew water rings on wood made me irrational. She left the television remote on the right side of the couch because my sore shoulder made reaching left uncomfortable. And even sick, I noticed her. I noticed she rubbed the base of her thumb after long clinic days. I noticed she answered work messages while eating standing up. I noticed the tired crease between her eyebrows when a parent from the clinic called after hours. On the second night, she arrived with soup and found a heating pad plugged in beside the chair she always used. "What's that? You keep rubbing your hand." She looked at me. "You noticed? You're not the only one with the surveillance skills." Her smile came slowly. That was one of the 3 truths I had been avoiding. Rachel watched over me, I watched over her, and neither of us was as casual as we pretended. The next morning I found her empty soup container by my sink. I washed it, dried it, and left it outside her door with a packet of the tea she liked tucked beneath the lid. I almost added a note. I didn't. At the time, even handwriting felt too much like confession. By the 3rd evening, I could sit at the kitchen table without the room moving. Rachel made tea. "You know where I keep the mugs," I said. "You keep all 6 in one cabinet. You're not that complicated. That seems insulting. It's meant to be comforting." Her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced down, then turned it face down. I saw enough. "Seattle Pediatric Fellowship. Interview confirmation. You're interviewing in Seattle?" She closed her eyes. Make the question face go away. "When?" "Thursday." "For what?" "A 4-month advanced pediatric sensory program. There's a permanent job connected to it. And you never mentioned it. You never asked if I planned to live across the hall forever. That's not fair." "No, it's accurate." I set down my mug. "When did you apply?" "October. 3 months earlier." "You knew you might leave." "I knew I applied." "And you didn't tell me. What exactly was I supposed to say? Hey, guy I exchange soup and windshield labor with, I may move 6 states away. Please react in a way that defines the relationship we refuse to define?" I had no answer. She nodded once. "Right." Snow ticked softly against the window. "Then why write family?" Her expression changed. "You really want to know?" "Yes. My mom died alone." The room seemed to contract. Rachel was 18 when her mother had minor surgery. She went home earlier than expected because she hated being fussed over. That night, she called Rachel, who was at college orientation. Rachel saw the missed call and planned to return it in the morning. Her aunt thought she was still at the hospital. A neighbor heard the television but did not want to intrude. A blood clot took her before morning. "I know it wasn't my fault," Rachel said. "Logically, I know. But for years I thought about how everybody assumed somebody else would check. Suddenly I understood the lights, the schedules, the cough through the wall. So when my car didn't move for 2 days, I noticed. When your lights were on at 4 in the morning, I noticed. When you stopped answering the hallway with your usual sarcasm, I noticed. That sounds slightly criminal. There he is. But that explains why you checked, not the form. She looked scared then, for the first time since finding me on the floor. No, she said. It doesn't. I waited. I wrote family because neighbor felt like a lie. Friend felt smaller than the truth. And I didn't have another word for whatever this is. The radiator clicked. I heard my own voice. What is this? Rachel laughed once, without humor. That is exactly the question you always wait for someone else to answer. I flinched. Sorry. No. Don't. I'm not trying to push you. Then what are you doing? Leaving room. For what? For you to step into it. I wanted to. Then the old panic rose. Need. Debt. Someone one day saying I had required too much. I stood too fast and had to catch the table. Rachel reached toward me, then stopped herself. That half-finished gesture hurt more than touch. I'm okay, I said. I know. Neither of us believed me. The next day I went back to work from home because steel load calculations did not ask what family meant. At noon, Rachel knocked and handed me grilled cheese. You're not staying? I have notes to finish. Disappointment escaped before I could hide it. She noticed. Michael, about last night. I'm sorry for making things weird. Her face went still. Right. That came out wrong. I think it came out exactly how you protect yourself. She turned to go. I caught my own door, not her arm. Please. She waited. I don't know what to do when someone takes care of me, that's obvious. My mother was sick for a long time. My girlfriend back then did everything. After Mom died, she told me she couldn't keep being needed that much. Rachel's anger softened. She wasn't wrong, I said. I leaned on her, until neither of us knew what the relationship was anymore. And you decided never to lean again? Something like that. That sounds lonely. It's efficient. That wasn't my question. I looked at her. Michael, I'm not Aaron. Caring for you 3 days does not make you responsible for my happiness. I know. Do you? You make every kindness into a contract. If I bring soup, you owe me. If I care, you need to repay me. So you stay half a step away because then the balance sheet stays clean. I do not have an emotional spreadsheet. You absolutely have an emotional spreadsheet. I laughed despite myself. Then she said, I don't want repayment. What do you want? Her eyes held mine. I want you to stop acting like being important to someone is the same thing as being a burden. She left me standing there with grilled cheese and no defense. That afternoon, my supervisor, Nate, informed me I was banned from fieldwork until Monday. Rachel called you? I asked. No. You joined a client meeting yesterday and called the project manager Mom. I closed my eyes. Nate laughed for 30 seconds before promising there were only a few screenshots. I texted Rachel. Apparently, I called my project manager Mom. Her reply came immediately. Family is expanding fast. I laughed hard enough to start coughing. 2 days later, well enough to cross the hallway without medical supervision, I carried breakfast to Rachel's apartment. Eggs, toast, roasted potatoes. She looked at the plate. What's this? Vegetables. Potatoes are doing a lot of legal work there. Breakfast. For you. That mattered more than it should have. After we ate, I pointed to her laptop. Show me your interview presentation. She narrowed her eyes. Why? Because your printer has been running every night, and you are still changing slide 3. For an hour, she rehearsed. I understood maybe 60% of the pediatric therapy language, but I understood structure. Slide 8 has 11 bullets, I said. They're important. Then say them. Don't make people read while you talk. She frowned. Also, the story about the boy who couldn't tolerate the cafeteria belongs near the beginning. That's not data, it's why the data matters. She studied me for a second, then moved the story to slide 2. Thank you. I shrugged. I occasionally have useful opinions. You have many opinions. The useful percentage is improving. That night, for the first time since urgent care, we felt almost normal. At 6:17 the next morning, the building alarm went off. Rachel pounded on my door. Water was pouring through the 4th-floor ceiling. A pipe had burst during the overnight freeze. Maintenance shut off the main line, but Rachel's apartment had taken the worst of it. Water ran down one wall and spread beneath the bookshelf. Her face changed. The box. She dropped to her knees beside a cardboard storage box, darkening at the corners. My mom's letters. We moved fast. The building manager warned us away from the sagging section of ceiling, so we pulled what we could into the kitchen. The bottom of the box gave out. Photographs, envelopes, and notebooks spilled across wet tile. Rachel made a small sound that frightened me more than a scream. Okay, I said. We can save some of this. They're soaked, not all of them. Towels, fans, clean paper. How do you know? A sprinkler line broke over site plans last year. For the next 2 hours, my apartment became an emergency archive. We laid photographs flat on towels across the dining table, separated letters with dry paper, and ran fans on low. When I reached for a bookcase, Rachel blocked me. You were in urgent care 4 days ago. I'm fine. You almost fell over. I stood up too fast. You are not lifting furniture. You're 5'4". I'm 5'5", and that's irrelevant. We carried it together. One photograph had fused to the back of an envelope. Rachel tried to peel it apart. Stop, I said. Her hands froze. If you pull, the surface may come off. She stared at the blurred image beneath the water. That's the last picture I have of her in our old kitchen. I found a plastic sheet from my drafting supplies and slid the whole piece onto it without separating anything. We'll let someone who knows what they're doing handle that one. Her eyes filled, but she nodded. A few minutes later, I stood to carry another stack into the bedroom, and my vision narrowed at the edges. I caught the counter before Rachel could see. She saw. Of course she did. Sit down. I'm fine. Your face is gray. I stood too fast. That sentence is how we got to urgent care. She took the stack from my hands. I hated how relieved I felt. For the first time, I understood the trap from the other side. Rachel had spent days caring for me, and now I was frightening her by treating my body like equipment I could overrun. Love could become control if fear drove it. Help could become another way of refusing to listen. I sat. Rachel handed me water. Neither of us commented on the reversal. By 9, the manager confirmed Rachel's apartment would be unlivable for several days, while the walls dried. You can stay here, I said. No. Why? Because you're recovering. I have a couch. So do co-workers. You practically lived here all week. That's different. How? She looked at the photographs covering my table. Because right now you're scared for me, so you're trying to fix everything. I'm offering a couch. You're offering whatever lets you feel useful. That is unfair. Is it? I stared at her. She stepped closer. You went gray moving that shelf. I was tired. You were sick. I was helping you, and I do not want your help at the price of your health. The room went quiet. Something in me cracked because she was refusing the version of love I understood best. Be useful. Be dependable. Make yourself necessary. Never ask for anything back. I don't know how else to do this, I said. Do what? I gestured between us. This. She waited. I care about you. I know. No, I know what you mean. Then why make me say it? Because I'm tired of carrying both sides of the sentence. I looked at the damp photographs. I don't want you to go to Seattle. Her breath caught. Why? Because you're family, I almost said. Instead, because you're part of my life. That's not the same as asking me to stay. I know. Do you? Yes. I took a breath that felt like stepping off something high. I think I'm in love with you. Rachel closed her eyes. When she opened them, she said, No. My stomach dropped. Not no to the feeling, she added. No to solving this today. I stared at her. You were sick. My apartment flooded. I have an interview in 5 days. You're scared I'm leaving, and you just spent 2 hours trying to save everything I love from water damage. I have wanted you to say that for months, Michael, but one sentence cannot fix everything. She was right. I hated it. What do you need? Time. How much? I don't know. An undefined timeline was cruel to an engineer. She almost smiled. I need you to get well. I need to do the interview. And I need to know that when you're not feverish, frightened, or standing in the wreckage of my apartment, you still want the same thing. I will. Maybe. I will. Then it can survive 5 days. She stayed with a co-worker that night. Not with me. I understood why. Understanding did not make my apartment feel less empty. For 5 days, I did something harder than rescuing Rachel. I respected the boundary. I did not send a midnight confession. I did not show up with flowers and an argument. When she told me 2 water-damaged photos might be lost, I found a restoration shop in Lakewood, then stopped myself before booking it. I sent the link instead. No pressure. Thought you might want this. Her reply came 10 minutes later. Thank you for asking without deciding for me. That sentence embarrassed me more than it should have. At work, Nate listened to the shortened version of the story. I told her I loved her. And? She said not yet. That's not no. I prefer clear deliverable. This is why nobody invites engineers to poetry readings. I glared at him. He grew serious. Does she know you support the interview? I told her I don't want her to go. That was not my question. I hated that everyone had become emotionally competent around me. That night, I called Rachel. Can I say one thing without turning it into a conversation you didn't agree to? Okay. I was wrong when I said I don't want you to go. I absolutely don't want you to go. But I want you to do the interview. I want you to get the offer if it's what you want. I don't want you staying, because I found courage at the exact moment you found an opportunity. She was quiet. I'm not asking you to choose me over Seattle, I said. What are you asking? For a chance to show you I meant what I said, even if Seattle still exists afterward. Silence. Then, that's better. Better than don't go? Much. I was under stress. You were under a blanket. The flood was stressful. She laughed softly. I had missed that sound. Good luck tomorrow, I said. Thank you. And Rachel? Yeah? Family wasn't a lie either. She went quiet. I know. The days before her interview became a quiet test of whether I could mean love without trying to control the outcome. I kept my follow-up appointment and actually told the doctor the truth about how much I had been working. I took the prescribed rest seriously. I sent Rachel one photo of my lunch, broccoli included, only because she had demanded proof that I possessed at least one green object not made of ceramic. When the building manager needed Rachel to choose replacement flooring, I offered to meet the contractor because she was at work. Then I added, only if you want me to. She texted back 3 options and wrote, You may use your engineering powers for flooring, but you do not get veto authority. I sent. Cruel, but fair. That was how I began proving the confession after the crisis. Not with another speech. With consent, follow-through, and the uncomfortable practice of asking where my help was actually wanted. The interview went well. Too well. 2 days later, she got the offer. 4 months in Seattle, starting in 3 weeks, with a possible permanent position afterward. She told me in the hallway between our doors. My first feeling was pride. My second was fear. That order mattered. "Are you going?" I asked. "I think so." My chest tightened. "Okay. That's it? What do you want me to say?" "I don't know. Neither do I." A corner of her mouth lifted. Then she looked down. "I almost didn't apply. Why? Because of you." I went still. When I moved here, I had a plan. Work 2 years, get advanced training, maybe move west. Then my oranges escaped. I smiled. "You became the first person I looked for when I came home," she said. "I knew when you had a sight day because your boots were gone. I knew when you had a bad day because you cleaned your car at night. I knew you were lonely before I knew whether you liked me. I liked you. You were very subtle. I scraped your windshield." "Yes, Michael, practically a proposal." Then her eyes grew serious. "I applied because I needed to know I was still making choices for my own life. Did I make you feel like you couldn't?" "No. You made me want to stay. That's different." The truth was painful and clean. I wrote family because that's how close you felt to me. But I couldn't keep building my future around a man who never opened the door all the way. I glanced at my actual door. "Metaphorically," she said. "I know. The real hinges are excellent." She laughed, and then her eyes filled. "I love you," she said. It was the first time. My mind barely registered the words before she added, "But I'm still going." There was the twist I had not prepared for. Some hidden part of me had made a bargain. She loves me, so she stays. Rachel saw it. "If I stay now because you finally set it back, I will always wonder whether I chose my life or reacted to yours. And if this only works when I live 12 feet away, then it was never as strong as we think." I swallowed. "That's fair. I hate that you're being reasonable. I can be worse." "I know." 2 tears escaped. I waited until she stepped toward me, then touched her face. "Go," I said. "Don't say it like you don't care." "I'm saying it because I do." Her hand covered mine. "I don't know what happens after." "Neither do I. Not knowing you used to feel like failure. That day it felt like honesty. Then she kissed me. It was not cinematic. A neighbor at the far end of the hall opened his door, saw us, and retreated immediately. But something settled in me. Not certainty. Choice. The next 3 weeks were not a perfect romance montage. Rachel's apartment repairs finished just in time for her to pack again. I helped when she asked. That distinction became practice. "Can you take apart the bookshelf?" "Yes." "Can you not reorganize the boxes by weight distribution?" "No promises." "Michael." "Fine." We went on our first official date to a small Italian place on Colfax and accidentally ate someone else's dessert. I told her more about my mother. Not only the cancer, how she sang badly while cooking, how she kept emergency cash in a flour tin, how she used to tell me fixing things was useful but showing up was better. Rachel told me about her mother's loud laugh and her habit of beginning home improvement projects at 9 at night. Grief became less like evidence and more like a room we could enter together, then leave. The night before Seattle, Rachel brought her chipped blue mug to my apartment and placed it in my cabinet. "What's this? Collateral For what? So I know I'm coming back. You don't need an object to prove that. I know. Sometimes objects are nice. At the airport the next morning, I did not ask her to stay. That was the hardest loving thing I had done in years. Call me when you get home, she said. I'm not the one flying. Humor me, I will. And eat a vegetable. I have potatoes. She gave me a look. Broccoli, I surrendered. She kissed me and walked through the sliding doors. 4 months did not pass easily. We missed calls. We got irritated. Once she forgot a video dinner after a brutal clinic day. My instinct was to say, it's fine. Instead, I said, I'm disappointed. It felt absurdly vulnerable. She apologized. We rescheduled. Nobody turned the mistake into a moral failure. Another time I canceled a visit because a bridge inspection changed dates. I started explaining every reason. Rachel stopped me. I understand the reason. I'm still allowed to miss you. That sentence rewired something. Need was not accusation. Disappointment was not debt. Care was not a contract. The hardest argument came 6 weeks into the distance. I had worked 14 hours, missed her call, and then answered her second call with the flat voice I used when I wanted everyone to believe I was fine. You don't have to perform okay for me, she said. I'm tired, that's all. You're allowed to be tired. I know. Then why are you talking like admitting it will cost you something? I almost said because sometimes it does. Instead, I told her the truth, that a part of me still expected care to be recorded somewhere, saved for a future argument. Rachel was quiet. Then she said, I can't promise we will never hurt each other. I can promise I won't keep a ledger. I sat in the dark of my apartment with that sentence. I'm sorry, I said. For missing the call? For making you prove you're not someone else? She did not rush to forgive me. That does hurt, she said. So don't apologize and repeat it. Work on it. I did. Not perfectly, but differently. We visited each other when schedules allowed. During one Denver weekend, Rachel found that I had restored the 2 photographs damaged in the flood. I had asked her permission before sending them out. One showed 12-year-old Rachel asleep against her mother's shoulder at a baseball game. The other showed her mother laughing in a kitchen. Rachel cried on my couch. I sat beside her. I did not fix it. I stayed. When she leaned against me, that was enough. Near the end of the fellowship, Seattle offered Rachel the permanent position. The salary was good. The clinic was excellent. She called from a bench outside the hospital. What do you think I should do? 4 months earlier, the question would have terrified me. Now I said, decide what work you want to wake up and do for the next few years. That's annoyingly healthy. I've been practicing. What about us? We're part of the decision. Part? Not all. She was quiet. I love you, I said. I want you in Denver, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But I also love the person who applied because she needed to choose her own life. If Seattle is the work you want, we figure out Seattle. If Denver is the life you want, we figure out Denver. I don't want a version of us where one person has to disappear. After a long silence, she said, You know what I hate? What? You got good at this. I had an excellent consultant. Rachel turned down the permanent Seattle position. Not for me. The fellowship had clarified what she wanted. A smaller clinic where she could build family education into therapy instead of treating it as an extra. 2 weeks later, a Denver clinic offered her a role doing exactly that. She accepted. When she came home, there was no airport sprint or crowd clapping. I met her at baggage claim because Denver International is too chaotic for cinematic behavior. Her suitcase was overweight. Her hair was frizzy. She looked exhausted. She saw me and smiled. That was enough. 6 months after the night at urgent care, our building changed management and sent everyone new emergency contact forms. Rachel was at my kitchen table when I opened mine. I laughed. What? I turned the paper toward her. Emergency contact? Relationship? Oh no. Oh yes, you are not making this a thing. You made it a thing in January. I was under pressure. So was I. My blood pressure, specifically. She covered her face. I picked up a pen. For 1 second, I considered writing family. It would have been poetic. It also would have been slightly dishonest now. I wrote, Rachel Adams, partner. She lowered her hands. Partner? You object? No. Her smile softened. No, I really don't. I slid the pen toward her form. Do I get to write family this time? She asked. You can write whatever is true. Rachel wrote, Michael Turner, partner. Then, beneath it, in parentheses, family. I laughed and reached for her hand. A week later, Rachel caught a cold. Nothing dramatic. No urgent care, no collapse, just a sore throat, a low fever, and the kind of exhaustion that made her fall asleep halfway through a documentary. I brought over soup. She opened one eye from the couch. Are we in a loop? Possibly. Did you put vegetables in it? Several. Growth. I set the bowl on her coffee table, then stopped myself from rearranging her medicine, refilling every glass, and turning care into a military operation. Do you want me to stay? I asked. Rachel looked at me for a moment. Yes. So I stayed, not because she needed rescuing, not because I could make myself indispensable. I sat at the end of the couch while she slept, answered 2 work emails of my own, and changed the volume when the television got loud. At 10, she woke and found me still there. You didn't organize anything. I'm evolving. She reached for my hand. That tiny moment felt more like a happy ending than any dramatic promise could have. We still lived in 2 apartments across the hall. We had talked about moving in together someday, but neither of us was in a hurry to turn progress into proof. Some nights I cooked, some nights she did. Sometimes we ate cereal at 9:30 because neither of us had anything left. She still texted when I worked too late. I still cleared snow from her windshield when I woke first. The difference was that we stopped pretending those things meant nothing, and I stopped trying to repay love before it could become debt. Some care is not a loan. Some people do not stay because you made yourself useful enough to deserve them. Sometimes they stay because they know the rooms inside you built from grief, fear, and old sentences, and they decide the door is worth waiting beside. Rachel did not save me by writing family on a form. She startled me into seeing that we had already built something I refused to name. What saved us was everything after. The soup, the boundaries, the flooded photographs, the confession she did not accept too quickly, the flight I did not stop, the calls we almost missed, the needs we finally admitted, and the ordinary choice to keep showing up without turning love into a debt. That is the part nobody writes on urgent care paperwork. But maybe it is the part that matters. If someone has ever cared for you in a way you were too guarded to recognize, tell me what finally made you see it. And if this story stayed with you, like and subscribe for more love stories about imperfect people learning how to stay.